The Arcet vase, the wonderfully faceted, sort of asymmetrically faceted, it reminds me of like Frank Gehry building, you know, the titanium surfaces and how it reflects, and it has that sort of a very architectural look to it. And so it would be really a shame to design just flowers. It just doesn't seem to make sense that you would use such an artistic piece to do that. So I thought that I would mimic the feel of it a little bit by using equisetum, which is commonly called horsetail, but instead of using it as it is, which is soft, but it breaks very easily, especially at the node, I'm going to go ahead and use the number 18 gauge wire, just straight green wire, and insert it through this equisetum, so I have much more control of this material. And I'm actually inserting the second one so that it overlaps with the first one, and so that the wire is all the way through. And I'm going to go ahead and do this to every one of these here on the table, the three pieces. So the key is to insert and then sort of gauge where the end is, go below it so that there's an overlap of a section. Because if you don't have that overlap, what happens is that you get wherever that there's the break, that's where you'll get the actual break in the equisetum if you don't overlap it. And just, you saw that sometimes the piece comes out, the wire comes out at the end, and so you just have to push it back and hide it. So let's start with that. And typically, when I do a piece like this, I think it's a very good idea to go with, this has got 5 corners on this opening here, so it's good to have the 5 pieces to come out so you get that sort of a pentagon shape overhead to repeat that shape that's already there. But certainly use odd numbers instead of even numbers so that it doesn't become too square. I think that's really very, very important. So I'm going to do this, insert this into the 3 corners, and then what I'm going to do, and I've already got these number 18 gauge wire that comes on the spool like this, cut into little pieces, and using these in place of bind wire in this case because we have metallic, so the tie really should be on the metallic side. So this way now, I'm going to take a spot in between the nodes. If you try to break at the node, or bend at the node, you get a break. But if you bend it at like a spot like this, you get a much cleaner bend that's sharp, and you can keep the shape much more cleaner. So I'm going to tie this here and just do a twist tie in this case. Don't do the wraparound. And then here I'm going to go and bend this and then bring this over so that I'm starting to get that sort of the shape that I'm after. I'm going to try to make it maybe 5-sided perhaps if I can. It might end up to be 4-sided though. And then this one here, bent over, brought, and maybe this is where I'm going to add in the 5th side by bending this over. And I'm not going to have the 5th line, but I'm going to still have it as a 5 side. And so that I can sort of enlarge that, what's going on there, the configuration, and bring it up. But you can see that that really is sort of the beginning of the structure that's being built. I'm going to add on a couple more equisetum so that it builds it to create a little bit more of a column, as I've done over here, and extend a couple of them up high so that it doesn't end off in a block, that it does end off with a sleekness that makes this design much more taller and with a good visual value. And so in this design, the finish, what I've done is just use 1 anthurium because it has a significant face, a shape that's really very beautiful and contrasting to the shape of the angularness of this. But I also used the alocasia to the front and to the back so that it shows those shapes that are in the structure itself. They're kind of pointed at the bottom and then bigger at the top shapes that's just sort of repeated. And you can see that each one of these segments actually mimics a lot of the shapes that's in this structure. So it's really about trying to make something that is cohesive to the container that's given, but it's a wonderful inspiration to be presented with a vase like this because it makes me want to do something very creative.